Today, we unravel the twisted tale of the Villisca Axe Murders, a haunting case that has left investigators and armchair detectives puzzled for decades. Join us as we explore the darkest corners of history where the scent of bacon lingers amidst the chilling details of the Villisca Axe Murders.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
It's alive!
I was with you.
They're coming to get you. Power of Christ. This is
Me?
Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
What's up, Lindy? How you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. We got Zach's on a bit of a vacation this week, so good for him. I hope he's enjoying it. We got my sister here.
Yes.
Finally, she did do a
Yes.
live, but she wanted to come on and do an episode and then didn't, and then wanted to come on and do an episode and then didn't, and then is finally on an episode.
I'm here today.
So we're super excited to have you.
Not wearing her Misfits shirt like she said she was going to, but
It was dirty. I
Well,
wore it
that's okay.
yesterday.
it was,
I haven't worn a Misfit shirt yet, so you're
Yeah,
good.
and
You're
she's
good. Don't
fine.
worry about
She's
it.
fine. That's not a big deal.
They haven't fired me yet.
Nah, it's all right. So Crystal was wanting to do the Axe Murder House, and I thought, well, now I'm looking at her notes, and then I'm looking at my notes, and I can tell that she's way more grown up than I am because mine look like a 7-year-old child did them because I am, and some things are misspelled and then scribbled out, and then there's question marks, and then just like all my other notes of every other topic I've ever done, and then hers looks like a fucking cookbook, really.
It looks like a well put together timeline.
It does. It looks like a fucking cookbook. Like it's like, what is that? Half pound of flour or
Pinch of this, a dash of that.
So I'm gonna let Crystal kick this off. Just go.
I'm so excited for this
'Cause-
story.
Well, you put me on the spot.
You're on the spot. It's time for the show.
I thought you were.
Okay,
you guys were
1912, the Moore family. They lived at 508 East 2nd Street in Villisca, Iowa, with a population of 2,500 people. Get it? Okay. Josiah Moore was a father, known as Joe or JB. Sarah Moore, mother. Herman, 11. Catherine, 10. Boyd, 7. Paul, 5. Those are the kids that they had. And so this was on June 9th, 1912.
There were two other kids, though.
Right.
Mhm.
Lena
Okay.
and Ina. So 12 and 8.
Maybe I heard different ages for.
I know that was one thing that I noticed that it was a little off on some of the ages.
Yeah, because I heard that Lena was a bit older than 12, but then that's what we got.
So anyway,
So she was like 12 and a half.
Probably, yeah.
we'll go with that.
We'll go with 12.
Okay.
It's horrible regardless. So
Yes. Yeah. Very sad.
So on June 9th, they have like a Children's Day services at the Presbyterian Church. And Sarah, the mother, she was the co-director. And, it's kind of like a festival, I guess.
it's
Kind of like a
little bit carnival,
like a
kind of.
VBS carnival kind of thing is what I got from it.
It's like the church that we used to go to used to have like Sunday fun day every once in a while where you'd go out to the lake and they'd have like balloon, like the blow up stuff for the kids and swim at the lake or whatever.
So like a little baby carnival type of.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Without the carnies, so it's less creepy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the services, they lasted from 8 p.m. Until around 10. They're saying that they left roughly around 10 o'clock and they had 3 blocks to walk from the church home. And somewhere in there, they had decided that Lena and Ina were going to come over and spend the night with the Moores.
Because they didn't want to walk home because apparently the power company and the city board had a issue with each other to where the city board didn't want to pay what they were asked to pay for the lights, and the power company was like, okay.
So
Nope.
we're just not going to
So
give
no
you
lights.
cheap bastards any lights.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Yep. Pay for it or don't have it. Fuck you, pay me.
All right, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
Well,
Yeah.
figure that out real quick. That part we got nailed. So they didn't want to walk home in the dead of night. That's why it was called the darkest night in Basilica, because this happened. And then it was actually.
Very dark. Yeah. No lights. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, whenever you mentioned that, that's not something that I even came across.
You didn't even see that?
I did not see anything about a problem. I guess what I took from it was that most people did not have electricity.
No, they didn't.
So are they meaning like
The Moors
street lamps? Are they meaning, is that
the
what they were
street
meaning?
lights. Street lights. Yeah, the street lights were shut off. The Moors didn't have power. They didn't even have indoor plumbing. Like I had read some things where they were like, it was like a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. I'm like, bullshit. There was no bathroom. They had an outhouse.
Right. That's
like
what
most people did. They didn't even have indoor plumbing.
So anyway, they get home about 10 p.m.
Wait, it ended at 10 and they got home at 10? That's
No.
some fast shit.
No, 8 to 10. 8 to 10.
Okay. Well, they got a DeLorean?
Oh, help us.
Okay.
All
So
right.
they got home at roughly 10 p.m.
Yes.
Right. They got home at roughly 10 p.m. And it said in one of the things that I had researched that they had a snack and they had headed to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere between 10 p.m. and 4:30-ish in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
apparently all of this took place. The murders took place. At 4:30 in the morning, their neighbor, an elderly lady, Mary Peckman,
Nailed it.
she starts out her morning chores. She goes out, she's starting her morning chores. She notices that Josiah, and he goes by Joe, that he is not outside doing his chores. She don't hear any noise whatsoever in the house. The kids aren't outside. So she heads over and knocks on the door at 7:30. Nobody comes.
Which is way late in the day, really, for those people.
Then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for farmers.
At that
For
time,
sure.
yeah, it's like that's basically noon.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
You should have been up for 4 hours doing things, and you weren't. And
Yeah. Your chickens haven't been let
Yeah,
out.
and
Cows haven't been milked.
And
Your
this
hogs
place-
haven't been sloughed. What the fuck are you doing?
and this
Get off
place
your
was
ass.
so great about like they just was like, okay, well, I don't know what they're doing, but we got to get people over here to do things. So they started calling around for people to come over. Well, we got to milk the cows. We got to let the chickens out. We got to do all this shit.
Which isn't that crazy? Like the neighbor thinks something's wrong by 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
My neighbor would not think anything was wrong with me if I wasn't outside at 7:30 in the morning.
I'd be dead for 4 years before anybody would call anything.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
might
think
be
my neighbors would be
2 days.
worried that they hadn't heard my dog bark yet,
It's like-
but otherwise they'd be like, oh, this bitch is probably asleep.
Same
Well,
here.
I think they repossessed the house. I don't know.
Before
was
they
it-
come looking for you.
His truck's gone. They broke the garage door down and took his truck. I don't know. He's probably okay. I don't know. It just doesn't work like that anymore, does it?
No, it does not. So they gathered up the neighbors
They sure did.
Right. So
to start the chores.
So 7:30, she comes over, she knocks on the door, nobody answers. She calls,
Well, she was gonna poke her head in and yell too, but the door was actually locked, which was fucking weird because they didn't lock their doors.
right. And Joe's brother, Ross, is who Mary contacts. He's a local druggist. And he makes it to the house around 8:00 in the morning. He notices that the door is locked. He uses his skeleton key to let himself in.
I don't know if it was a skeleton key. He just had a key to the house. It wasn't a skeleton key. It was just a key to he had a key to the house. Like Jared, my brother's got a key to my house. I got a key to his house in case we need to get in. But here's my sister's thing that she gets into. Do it.
I just found it funny that the brother lets himself into the house by means of whatever key. He goes into the house, and obviously for the most part, most people are familiar with a sibling's house. They've been there. They know the layout. He walks in. So there is a guest room downstairs. And back then, if you had a 2-story house of any kind, usually the bedrooms were upstairs, the parents' bedrooms, all of the kids.
It was only like 1,000 square feet. I mean, it was a 2-story house, but it was only like 1,000 square feet. And then they didn't use that guest bedroom, which was weird when you have all those kids. You would think you would use it for something, but it was just, I don't know. People coming over all the time, apparently.
I don't know. So in different places that I had looked and done research on, they had all said the same thing, that he had noticed something was off. He let himself into the house. He walks into the guest room that's downstairs. And that's whenever he notices the Stillinger girls. I just think that is odd, because if someone would have contacted me, say they had been over to Matt's house, wondering if something was going on, I obviously know the layout of his house. If I was looking for my brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece and nephew, I would have went straight to their rooms instead of, another room in the house that's downstairs, when I know that that's not where they sleep, especially at, when she's noticed something's not right at 4:30 to 7:30 in the morning.
So
I think I personally would have walked into the kitchen.
Right.
And started hollering. And then, obviously there's been a murder. So things have been left behind. I would have freaked out and ran upstairs to where I know my family resides.
But the only thing I could think about it is they didn't have power to this house. There was no power. There was no indoor plumbing. So if he walked inside, all the windows were covered. So it's probably pitch black in that motherfucker. So it might have just been the door being open was the only light he could see. So we just followed that down, which is the only thing I could come up with. But
that's
also it was weird that he went to a room that he should have known nobody was using, unless he knew those girls were staying.
It's not occupied.
Yeah, right.
So he sees the 2 bodies in the downstairs bedroom, and there is blood, of course, all over the bed. So he calls the store, and he has them go and search for the Marshal Hank Horton.
Which was he was just stellar police work in this one. I mean, really, wasn't there?
Yeah, I was super impressed.
Much like many of our stories, the police work in this one is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
Yes. What do you do? Well, you block it off and you don't let anybody in, but then you got to go do stuff, and then you're just like, promise me you won't go in. And they're like, okay, we won't. And then you leave, and hundreds of people run through the house while all the bodies are there. And it's like, you might have got a bloody footprint, but now you can't, because 300 people have trampled through this place. They're holding the axe that was used. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. So Marshal Hank, he shows up around 8:30 in the morning. He goes into the house. He checks all the rooms. He goes upstairs. He comes back outside, and he makes a statement that everybody is murdered, or somebody is murdered in every bed in the house.
Thank you, doctor.
Right.
Well done.
Now, parts of this.
What gave it away?
I will tell you. So where the neighbors, the Stillinger girls, there was in their room, there was a partially clean murder weapon, which happens to be the axe. It was leaning against the south wall in the bedroom, and a 4-pound slab of bacon that's wrapped in a towel. And there is also a piece of string that's laying there.
We've got differing views on the bacon thing, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Okay.
They also notice that clothing is covering the mirrors and the glass to the entry doors. In the kitchen, there is a plate of uneaten food with a bowl of bloody water next to it.
You got to get cleaned up before you eat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
you've got things coming up to talk about. Keep going. We'll just do the ending at the ending.
So as they start looking at that, of course, they've called the store looking for the marshal. Word is spreading like wildfire. All these people show up.
Yes.
Even now with the DNA, all the stuff that we could do to try to figure it out, the probability of ever.
If you let a crime scene get trampled like that, the dude would just be laughing while he watched the news. Like, you let 100 people go through there? Awesome. Well, I am scot-free. Nobody's ever going to fucking catch me. I could have taken a shit in there and they couldn't prove that it was me. Because there was 100 people came marching through the place. I jacked off 4 times and took a shit and they can't prove it's me. Well, you know what the bacon was for. I mean, you're going to say something different, but I know what it was for.
No.
Fuck toys.
This is disturbing.
Yeah,
yes, it very much is.
Welcome to the podcast, Crystal.
It's very disturbing. It's what the people want.
They, obviously they find out that, or they realize that it was the family's axe. Well, back then, everybody had an axe. Your house is heated. You're cooking with wood. Everybody had an axe there. They also notice that Joe's pocket watch is found downstairs, and his brother had stated that was normally something that was upstairs. So I guess
might have been wanting to steal it, but there was also like a keychain or something that was found too.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, there was a keychain that was found too that I think one of the girls downstairs gave a fight a little bit, and so there was a couple little things, but.
And in the research that I had found, or that I had done, I had found out that there was one photo of the crime scene that is in existence. There was someone that had went into the house again. Hundreds, if not 1,000 people had went through this house during the crime scene investigation. It wasn't a controlled scene. And even one person, when they went through the house, one person even took a piece of Joe's skull.
Yes.
I mean, that is absolutely insane.
Yeah. And JB's brother broke that camera that the guy had that was taking pictures.
Right.
He took it from him and broke it.
Which, I mean, wouldn't you do that to try to save the dignity of your brother and family?
But the only thing is that could have came in handy actually in catching the guy because they let everything else get trampled on.
But I
don't know. It could have
emotion.
I don't know.
You don't think
I'd have lost my fucking mind. Yeah.
Right.
If I'd have walked over to my brother's house and that shit happened and some guy was in there with a camera, I'd have beat the fuck out of him. Yeah, it would have been awful. There would have been another crime scene.
So, I mean, the likelihood of having this ever solved now or even in the future, it's 0.
No, because there's nothing that you can even go on. You can't even go back and look at DNA stuff because hundreds of people walked through the house and was touching shit while the bodies were still in there. I mean, I mean, we get into stuff that we like, true crime, getting into it, but I don't want to walk through a house and see actual fucking corpses of children laying in beds with blood all over the fucking place.
I mean, that's what I
think my sister's fucking disturbed for wanting to do this story in the first place. I don't even know.
Oh my God.
No.
I just,
I'm going to do Albert Fish later. Well, it's fine.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've done Elizabeth. I've done, let's not go into the people that I've done because they've all been child murderers. It's
been pretty horrible.
Fine.
It's been pretty horrible in the past.
It's just not something that I mean, I guess curiosity, but who would, that's just not something that I would want to go into somebody's house and see them hacked to death.
Did you not listen to the Belgonis episode? Because there was a fucking carnival outside while there were people going over there to watch all that, to see where those bodies were getting dug up and shit.
No, thanks.
Well, it's just like true crime now, only we've got television, podcasts, and
we have things that'll cover it live. And back then you didn't have anything that would cover it live. So you had to go see it.
They drive there and check it out live. Yeah.
So I guess like part of it, you know, that I kind of want to know is, and I'm assuming in the early 1900s, well, even later than that. I mean, do you think that whenever we was growing up, did we normally lock the doors at night?
No.
Right. I didn't think so either. No. So in the early 1900s, did you feel like most people locked their doors?
Nobody locked the doors. No.
Oh, no. No, I don't think so.
No, we didn't. We didn't when we were kids, and it wasn't until we got older that I think Mom started locking the doors at one point in time because of certain stories. I think it was a satanic panic, actually, in the 80s. It was like,
yeah, especially not in a small town where there were only so many residents, and it was a farming town. Everybody knew each other. Everybody helped each other. Everybody was a member of the same church.
Yeah, but then
I think it was very common practice to leave things open to just be able to get into wherever you needed to be.
If you needed to stop by for something, you need to use the restroom, whatever. People either. But then Anton LaVey was flying around on a broom, probably going in and killing virgins and whatever happened in the 80s, and that kind of killed it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and Anton LaVey or Ben Franklin, you know.
One or the other. Yeah,
one of the two of them. It was happening.
Basically.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, they noticed that there was no forced entry. So it just kind of leads you to believe that, yeah, the doors weren't originally locked. But of course, when the brother shows up, they're locked. And then also
he locked it on his way out. It was like to delay kind of time.
Being caught.
Save time.
And then of course,
are you going to go with the being in the attic, or are you going to go that he snuck in? What is your thing?
I don't know.
Because I went through a walkthrough. I did a walkthrough of that house, and being in the attic was basically opening in the door and then walking into a bedroom.
Oh, it was like a cubby instead of
with the Amityville windows in it, even.
Right.
So he was super. Even if he was crazy when he got in there and they got those windows, that's all you need in the house, and you'll go fucking nuts.
I mean, I'm going to go with that he came in, but I think that that's where I have a problem with it too. Especially having, you know, we were in the middle of that renovation on the house. Whenever you have wood floors, and I'm assuming that that's what they had.
They weren't carbon fiber?
Wood or dirt.
Right. Well, I don't mean where they carpeted. I'm saying like they could have laid down some kind of rug. I mean, they had rugs.
I'd say it was either wood or dirt.
It was wood.
But yeah, I'm going to assume that it was wood floors, wood stairs with no covering whatsoever. Walking up and down stairs is going to make some noise.
Absolutely.
So if he let himself in, I get that kids are probably not going to wake up. I think that most kids can sleep through anything. But as parents, you wouldn't hear somebody coming up your stairs.
That's why I think he was in the attic, because when I thought attic, I thought, oh, it's up above but I think it was like just a door next to it.
So like a crawl space type?
Well, it wasn't even a crawl space. I mean, it was tall enough to stand in or crouch down in. But I think he just had to open up a door and walk straight into their bedroom. And then it was like JB was the one that was killed with the sharp side of the axe. But then he learned, hey, that's going to stick.
Right.
And so switched it around to the blunt side to kill everybody else.
He killed the adults with the sharp side of the axe, both of them.
I think just JB. I don't know if he done the wife. I had heard different, both, because I looked into this so many times, and it's like they're so differentiating from one story to another. One was like, I heard it was only his wife that was done that way. Then I heard it was only him. And then I heard none of them were done that way. Nobody fucking knows because they let 100 people go through the fucking place.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
but of course, if you're going to, I'm just blown away that it was the whole entire family, but you're going to take out the threat first. You're going to remove the parents, meaning the parents, they're the threat. But yeah, I agree with you on how he was probably using the sharp side of it and it was sticking.
Yeah. And he couldn't get it pulled out quick enough because, I've heard like you stab somebody. Sure. Easy. Getting it back out, there's suction on it. That's why there's blood grooves in some knives. So it's easier to pull back out. I can't imagine pulling a hatchet out of a skull or an axe out of a skull. It's got to be fucking brutal.
Well, and that was one of the reasons why they let so many people into the house was to see if they could actually handle that axe.
Yeah. Just let them all touch the murder weapon. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, they all handled the axe.
Back in the day, I would have been like fucking Sherlock Holmes because I would have just been like, "Don't let people in there." They'd be like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because."
Well, listen, there's a reason.
No. See, I nailed it. Look at me. She's fucking genius. I'd have been a fucking doctor. I could have been a doctor. Seriously, I'd have been like, let's put some alcohol on it. Cut it off. What, his foot is infected? Gotta get rid of that shit. I'd have been a rich man back in the day with all my wisdom.
You would have been. So basically, that is the crime scene.
The girls downstairs, and we'll go through the crime scene with he didn't just kill the parents, right?
No, he had killed the mom and dad and their 4 kids that were upstairs. The 2 sisters that were neighbors, that were guests. In there, they find the axe that is partially wiped off. They find the 4 pounds, the slab of bacon wrapped in a towel. No, it was not. And on a plate of uneaten food and a bowl of bloody water that they assume that he cleaned his hands. So I guess whenever you're looking, or at least when I'm looking at a situation, the reasons to kill, it's either based on greed, meaning money, jealousy, which would be revenge or anger, or sex.
Most of them. Yes.
Most of them.
Yeah.
So, but why would you, if you were mad at someone, why would you slay their whole entire family?
Well, you wouldn't. It doesn't make sense.
Right. I don't think so either. And greed, well, they had later on came out that Joe was having an affair.
Yes.
And that was confirmed because
Frank Jones was a senator, and actually JB worked at his shop and then later opened his own shop across the street that sold John Deere things. So you've got that he opened a shop across the street from a guy that he used to work for, which he's one of the top salesmen, but he's also selling John Deere parts, which you can only sell John Deere if you're a John Deere dealer. And Frank wasn't. So that wasn't affecting him at all. But he was also fucking his son's wife.
Which wasn't he the senator?
Yes,
wasn't it the senator?
He was a senator for a while, but then after all this shit came out, he was never elected back in. So he just, he was still well off, well to do. It never hurt him.
I think even the affair was confirmed by the switchboard operator.
Yeah,
could you imagine having the job of the switchboard operator back then?
Gosh.
You would know dirt on everyone.
I would listen to every fucking phone call.
You would.
Every woman that was crying, I've been like, no, there's no way I'm not listening to this. She's calling her sister. What the fuck do you do now? I'm in.
And I guess it's me. I think that it was more on the sex side because of how one of the Stillinger girls was positioned. Everyone else, they were bludgeoned to death. They were not disturbed. They were covered up. But
and didn't they believe that one of the girls had actually woken up and she fought back because she had defensive wounds?
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was the deal where he was. I think that this dude just thought that the family was there, and I think he was sitting down to eat when he heard like snoring or something from that other room, and just went back there. And then there's, oh man, okay, keep going.
No, that's all right. I mean, so you think that he killed them all, and then he sat down to dine?
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, I mean,
and then he heard the girls in the
and then he went in there to finish the job, and then it got later, and I don't think it was the killer that moved the body because that wasn't his MO later. So I don't think it was the killer that did that. I think it was somebody else, but we'll get into that in just a second. So you think
that he was caught off guard that the neighbor girls were there?
Yes.
See, I think that he knew the neighbor girls were there. I think that that's why.
See, you're thinking too much. I think.
I mean, maybe.
I think you're thinking too much. I think this was we'll get to whoever everybody thinks it is at the end, but so you want to get into like Frank Jones was one of them. William Mansfield was another one that they thought might have done it. Paid hitman, but he had a rock solid alibi that was supported by work. So couldn't have been him. And then there's my sister's favorite, which is Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly.
Reverend
was an
Kelly.
Absolute fucking freak show of a person. He arrived in 1904 from the UK, traveling preacher. He was a peeping Tom and had sent many obscene letters through the mail to get young women to get naked for him. But the church just kept moving him around to kind of like avoid controversy, which is what they sometimes do with like Catholic preachers.
Yeah. Well, it's what they used to do, Matt. It's what they used to do. They don't do that anymore.
They don't do it anymore? Okay. My sister just elbowed me like I shouldn't have said that.
Religious hate mail. Religious hate mail.
Well, if you're standing up for pedophiles, I don't give a fuck.
That I agree.
But this dickhead, he was in town. He was in town that day, even attended the same service that they went to. And then he stayed the night at the Reverend's house with his wife. But him and his wife stayed outside in a tent because of, I think it was tuberculosis or whatever. But so he's just inside. So no one knows what he was doing. And he even pretended to be a detective from Scotland Yard to get inside the house.
2 weeks later, he comes back.
Yeah. So he knew like a shitload of details that other people didn't know. And so I heard different things that maybe he did know because maybe he was peep-a-tomming and witnessed things happening.
Right.
And then didn't say anything and went in, and he was probably the one that fucked the bacon. Don't think I won't say fuck the bacon 4 more times.
Well, Reverend Kelly, he came into town the Sunday morning of this revival or carnival, church carnival.
I like the name Reverend Kelly, but the guy's a fucking creep. It sounds Irish, but I hate that it's.
But then he left. He comes into town on a train. I know. He comes into town the Sunday morning of the revival, and then he's leaving by 5:20 on train number 5 on Monday morning, and he's telling the passengers all kinds of information about it. This family is slain. But at this point in time, by 5:20, they haven't even been discovered.
Yeah, nobody even knows yet.
So yeah, I think it was
peeping Tom, motherfucker. I think he was peeping through the windows of what wasn't covered up. I think he went into the house because I'll bring up some stuff here in a bit about what was different from this axe murder as opposed to others that was going on. I think he snuck in the house. I think since he thought, well, everybody's already dead, I'm going to fuck this bacon while I mess with this girl because I'm a fucking creep in the first place. And I think that's what happened.
Well, whenever
bacon fucker.
4 pounds of bacon, 4 pound slab of bacon.
He sees the Baconator commercial and just starts jerking. I think.
Do you think? I look at it
he can't even go drive past a Wendy's without getting a boner.
Oh my Lord.
Fucking gross.
I'm looking at it.
I want a BLT right now, but I don't want to jerk. Well,
I was looking at it like the Moore family, they're at least middle class, probably upper middle class.
They were upper middle class. Yes,
So
definitely,
if
definitely.
the neighbor girls are staying over,
Yes.
he might have, Joe, the dad,
JB.
right? He might have cut off a slab of bacon, wrapped it in the towel. That's why the towel and the twine is in there.
Because
Gave it
he's
to the
thinking
girl.
he's going to get up in the morning and get out there and get his chores done. And whenever they leave, they can take it home to their family.
Right.
Fair
But-
enough. Still fuck toy, I think.
But I think whenever they started doing the investigation, didn't they get a hold of someone that was basically running like a halfway house for prisoners getting ready to be released? I mean, what better way to find out why somebody might do something to get it than to get in the mind of those people? And that's what they said was a artificial vagina.
I'm trying to figure out how they didn't cock this up. Because they 100%. I mean, we've been through some pretty bad police forces.
Yes.
This one, you promise you won't go in? Okay, we're going to leave. And then just hundreds of people just running through the house while bodies are still fucking in there.
Well, they allowed them in.
Yeah, they let them.
It wasn't even the police were gone. They allowed them to go in.
And then one guy shows up with a fucking English accent and he's like, I'm from Scotland Yard. And they're like, go ahead. Tell us what we need to do because I have no fucking idea.
Why
I don't know what
are
I'm
you
doing.
here all of a sudden? We just found this out. We haven't called anyone in,
Yes.
let alone Scotland Yard. So it all makes perfect sense.
You finished.
Perfect sense.
Get on that.
Okay. So Lena, the 12-year-old, the oldest of the Stillinger girls, she was pulled a third way down in the bed, her head above or her hand above her head. So this is the one that they think woke up. And her hand was also in brain matter. So they do think that he manipulated her body and posed her.
Or someone did.
Her underwear was removed and under the bed. She was posed. Her shoulders were laying flat and her hips were rotated. Her knees were bent up and spread. There was also a lantern on the floor. And I think that is what with the lantern part, most of the things that I have looked into, they're saying that he carried a lantern into every room. How are you going to carry a lantern and a wheel and an axe?
Well, you take the globe off the top of it so it don't fall off and break. Which is what he did in every case. And then there's more coming up that I'll get into. You take the globe off the top, and you don't have to worry about that glass falling off and breaking. All you got to worry about is just holding it. You set it down, start swinging, grab it, go to the next room.
Right. I read this book a long time ago, and I'd never really looked into it. But whenever I started looking into things, who I originally thought was probably the person and who I ended up thinking was the person was two totally different things. I figured it was the other business owner, the senator's son, because of the affair. I don't even know what his name was.
Frank Jones.
Yeah.
Frank Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it was him. But yeah,
So who do you think it is at the end?
I'm kind of torn. I really want to blame Reverend Kelly, but part of me thinks it could have just been some traveling hobo on a train.
No. Lindy, did you come up with a conclusion of who you thought did it?
I did. I actually have two.
Ooh, who are they? Who are they?
I think it was either the dad's brother, the one who was called to get into the house.
He had keys.
Yep.
Yes,
That's
right.
that's what I said to Matt the other day.
Or Reverend Kelly.
Right.
Well, Crystal was half right, and you're completely wrong because the person,
It was the.
Thank
it
you
was
for the opinion.
the person that killed these people didn't know them at all, didn't live in the town. They rode the rails. Okay, Colorado Springs, September 1911. Okay, Monmouth, Illinois, Ellsworth, Texas, October of 1911. Poli, Kansas, Villisca, Iowa, June 1912. Columbia, Missouri, December 1912. All of them, same MOs, going into the house, finding a weapon there. One of them was done with like a lead pipe instead of an axe because they couldn't find the axe. They were all left there. Sometimes he cooked a meal, sometimes he didn't, but all the faces were covered after they were killed. The windows were covered. The house was locked. The mirrors was the only thing that Villisca was different than that because the mirrors were covered. But I think that's because the peeping Tom came in there and fucked some bacon while he was looking at a dead girl.
So you think that this...
I've nailed it. Case closed.
Train rider.
Basically.
Hobo. We'll call him the hobo.
Yes.
You think this hobo...
I think they call him Billy the Axe Man.
Okay. You think Billy is riding this train. He hops off. He's just walking through town.
Yep.
He sees Reverend Kelly window peeping.
No. I think the killer was already in there. I think Reverend Kelly was peeping.
And watched the whole thing go down?
Because they said he knew details that nobody else knew. Like he would reenact this in like the restaurant or whatever, where he was at. Like he would reenact what had happened and the police didn't release that information and he knew stuff he shouldn't have known. So I think he's seen it, went inside after the killer left because he's a fucking dirtbag piece of shit and fucked some bacon while he looked at a child that was dead. Nailed it.
So basically what you're saying is you just solved the Axeman of New Orleans.
It seems like
Write it down. Write it down.
Seems like it.
And
it could have been him too. Could have been him too.
So you're going with the whole thing that the bacon was a sex
toy. A fuck toy, yes.
No way. What do you think about the food that was left on the table untouched? You think that the neighbor came over,
yes.
he was sitting down to eat, and she knocks on the door?
By the time he got done with his business, he was sitting down to eat, and the neighbor came over and knocked, and he had to fucking skedaddle, basically. I think. Or he had fixed the meal when he heard the other girls in the other room that he didn't think was going to be there.
What do you think, Lindy?
And he had to stop eating so he could leave.
Yeah.
I still think it was, if there's a, listen, now we're going to get hate mail from churches. If there's a priest or a preacher or an aspect like that involved, that's who I'm going with every time.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going with the, okay.
I still think it was a reverend.
Yeah, he was a horrible cocksucker. So yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been.
It wasn't that hard, in my opinion, to mimic because, like we've said 1,000 times before, true crime is something that has always been watched. We're not the first people to do it. We're certainly not going to be the last people to do it. This has been around since
Right. Yeah.
The very first person sprang up from wherever we came from. We used to stand in squares and watch people get hung. We used to watch people get beheaded. This was something that we've always done. So it stands to reason that if people are being axed in other states, in other places along the rails especially, there's going to be news about it. There's going to be details about it in the newspapers. So why, if I'm a smart enough criminal, why wouldn't I pay attention to that and use it?
And then actually cover the exact details that they said that the other person did just to throw them off your track because they'd be like, well, exactly. It has to be the same guy. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Because there were enough details that were different.
Well, I thought I solved this, and then Lindy has to come in with her fucking shit and ruin my thing.
So I think that I still think that it was either the person who actually discovered the bodies to begin with, that brother, or the reverend.
Well, the creepy thing about the brother, which what Crystal said, was he just walked straight down the hallway to the bedroom that wasn't even normally occupied. He just went straight to it. And then the reverend dude just being a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and the fact that the reverend was arrested later, he was...
Well, wasn't he tried? I think he was tried twice, wasn't he?
Yes, and he was actually put in an institution.
He was acquitted.
But what the church does is they just move you around from place to place so that you don't get in as much trouble.
Yeah. So after his initial acquittal, the reverend was going to hire an assistant. He started sending her creepy ass letters. They proved it was him.
Yeah.
And instead of putting him in jail, they institutionalized him.
Right. I mean, and it said on there that the first trial ended in a hung jury. And then,
Yeah. So in Illinois, he was acquitted, but then wherever the next place that he went was, I can't remember where they sent him. In Washington, D.C.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was put in a mental hospital in Washington, D.C. for the letters that he sent to the girl that he was sexually harassing.
Yeah, he was one.
I just think that that to me, the Reverend makes the most sense. They're at this church carnival. He's already a creeper anyway.
He was there. He was there.
He sees Lena. The people that he's staying with, they're sick. They can't even account whether he was there all night or not. He watches them, comes in. He gets rid of the parents, gets rid of everybody else, and then
fuck some bacon.
I'm just going to agree to disagree on the.
Well, they can't prove that the young girl was sexually assaulted.
Right.
Upon exam, it doesn't appear that she was.
I think it was just to be viewed at. I think it was just to be looked at.
I think he covered the mirror. I mean, I'm not going to say that he did not sit down or satisfy himself in some way. I don't.
He fucked the bacon.
I don't. With the bacon.
You think the bacon? You think the bacon?
Yeah, I do.
Bacon
I do.
Maybe. But, he covered the mirror. Who wants to be able to see themselves in a mirror acting out?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
How would you be a pretty vain son of a bitch?
How would you look at yourself doing that?
Especially if you're fucking 4 pounds of bacon.
Right.
This seems weird. I don't think anybody wants to watch that.
No. Well, and if it makes more sense to me that way, because if you're a man of the cloth. So the reason that the person who found the bodies initially is someone, I think, is because the bacon, the alleged sexual assault, that kind of stuff, that didn't happen to any of the family members. It happened to...
It was just the one.
Only 2 little girls who happened to be there.
Which makes it seem like if that was the case, then he would have known that they were there. So it wouldn't have been like what I thought, where he was just going in to kill the family. He would have
Well, and it stands to reason that the whole town was at church that day. So he would have seen that those little girls went home with his brother.
That's true.
Well, anybody would have seen that those 2 little girls went home with the Moore family.
Very true. And he is a creepy fuck. So.
But as for the Reverend, if he was doing it for sexual gratification, what better family than a family that has, 3 little girls, and hey, they just took home 2 more.
And one of them's older.
Smorgasbord.
Yeah, I can have my pick. But for me, the brother makes sense because it was the only people who potentially were touched were the 2 that weren't family.
Right.
What do you feel is the reason behind all of them being slayed?
I think once he started, he just couldn't stop.
The brother?
So
or either one. I just think once he started, he was like, they're going to figure out this was me.
Right.
If my brother wakes up, I'm going to be overpowered. If his wife wakes up, I'm going to be, she knows who I am. I'm going to have the finger pointed at me. And
did you guys,
I think he didn't want to take those kids into his home because where are the kids going?
Right. I see what you're saying.
He's got 4 nieces and nephews, and now all of a sudden they're without parents. Where are those kids going to go? And they're coming to live with you, fool.
Yeah.
Was there anything in you guys' research that you saw? Was there any hard feelings between the brothers? Or I didn't come across anything like that.
I didn't either. I didn't even come across.
I didn't see anything like that.
I didn't even see hard feelings between him and that the guy that he worked for. I put my notes away, so I don't know what his name was. But there was no hard feelings between them either because, like I said earlier, that he opened the store across the street, but he's selling different things. He's not. I mean, he's selling John Deere parts, so he's not actually disrupting that guy's business. Of course, if you want,
it was Frank Jones.
Frank Jones, yeah.
But when Moore went across the street, he did potentially take some business away from Moore, but I don't think that it was enough.
Not enough to piss him off too bad, right?
Yeah.
I think,
and honestly, had he gotten his John Deere license, like you said, he probably could have outshined Moore anyway.
Yeah. And I think it was one of those deals where it was like the dude worked for him. He was like one of his best employees, like one of his top salesmen. And I think they were friends enough that he was like, no, up and on. Go ahead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this town going.
Yeah.
You're selling that over there. I'm selling this over here. Let's do this.
Well, and Jones, being state senator, wasn't really that involved in the business. So why is Moore going to keep putting money in his pocket?
Exactly.
Right.
Like, why am I going to keep lying in your pocket when I run your store and I can go do it at a different location and make the money of my own standing? I don't need to do this for you. I can do it for me.
Right.
I do see what you're saying about the brother. And that was one of the first things that I kind of thought too, because, and that's what I said to Matt. If somebody had called me to go into your house, I would have went running into the house, light or dark, hollering for you. And then if you wasn't in the front room kitchen, I would have went straight to your room instead of a room that is a spare room. That's just odd to me. But
the only thing that I could think that would make sense for that would be, like Matt said, maybe that door was left open and he was like, why the hell is this door open? So he just pushed it open.
yeah, that could
But that's
be.
not going to be the first room I go to.
Me either.
Right. Yeah. If you're searching.
Like in my house, if you're coming into my house, what you're going to look for is the last pair of shoes I had on, which means they're probably in the kitchen under my stove, because hands down, that's where I go and I take off my shoes. There's a pile of them there. Don't ask me why. I don't know. That's where I take my shoes off at. So if there's not a, and if you're walking into the kitchen, but I'll never be pregnant.
Right.
If you're walking into my home, that's where you're going. You're either walking directly into the living room or you're cutting through my house and going to the kitchen, because that time in the morning, if I'm not asked out, that's where you're going to find me.
Right.
Right. Or on my back porch, which you have to go through my kitchen to get to. So, and you're going to see, hey, there's a full ass plate of food and bloody clothes. Shit, there's blood. Who's hurt? Are they in the hospital? Are they upstairs dying? I'm running next to the room I know that my family occupies, unless I know what already happened.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, I see what you're saying there. I mean, that does make sense.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people think that too, because they're going with the same logic that you're going with right there. It was just like, dude, he was way too calm and way too weird about how he did it. Yeah.
I mean, the house is locked up, and granted, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because there could have been another set of keys. The killer could have locked up. But if you're just a random ass person and you're leaving, fuck you. I'm leaving the door unlocked.
Exactly.
I might leave it open.
It was to delay.
Come trample in through this crime scene. Please do.
And they didn't. I think that definitely the locking up the doors was to delay things to get back on. See, I'm going to go with the duel on the train. I still think that because there were so many of those murders, like I went over, well,
and it's still a very common occurrence. We actually just arrested a man for that recently, who was riding the rails and killing people. So, I mean,
don't like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty common occurrence. This wouldn't be the first or the last case that's ever going to happen like that, if that's what's happened. But I think it was his brother.
You're going with the guy on the train?
She's going with his brother.
I mean, you.
Yes. Billy the Axeman.
I'm sticking with Reverend Kelly.
None of us agree on fucking anything.
No, we agreed on the points.
We
agreed on the points. We just don't agree on the person.
These people were definitely killed by somebody. They were
murdered for sure.
They were definitely murdered.
In Villisca.
It was definitely in the town, in the house. We had the address right.
Right.
So,
and the date.
Yeah, the date. I'm sure it was right.
After the church function.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Door was locked.
Bodies were moved. Hundreds of people were allowed to trample the crime scene. So, yeah, we've nailed this. We've solved fuck all.
Solved it. We solved it. We're solving things going back to the Axemen in New Orleans. We're solving it.
We got it. Same guy. Either way, he's dead. He's not alive anymore. It doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder.
Most certainly.
And I didn't see, but I wonder if anybody had ever made any deathbed confessions or.
There was the one, I think it was the Reverend.
Yeah, but the fucking guy lied about it in the first place. Well, the first time he said it.
Yeah.
That guy was just
somebody wrote a
fucking
confession, but then later recanted it. It was no.
That guy was just a bit of a mess. I think.
It was the Reverend. It was the Reverend who did a confession and then later recanted.
And there's so many people that have done so many deep dives on this story that's why I thought it was the guy running the rails, because I had listened to I fucking forget. It was one of the it was a book that a dude wrote, and I didn't write it down, which I should have, to give him props. But I listened to a thing on YouTube, and the dude was just like, man, they were these murders that happened. They were the same exact things, only the mirrors weren't covered up. That's why the dude thought that's why he was fucking the bacon and didn't want to see himself in the mirrors. So I'm still thinking.
Yeah, because in all of the houses, the windows were covered by something.
Yes, they covered the windows in all of them. They locked the doors on the way out. They were all beaten with an axe or a lead pipe, whatever was laying around. They didn't bring their own weapon. Faces were covered in whatever the 6 ones that I.
So it was just
said.
Weapons of opportunity. Whatever was there.
Yeah. Well, you already know there's going to be an axe there. You got to burn wood. So,
I mean, technically, you could apply that today. Everybody has a steak knife. You know,
you're not going to have to
look.
Yeah, but it's not going to be outside.
Right. You're
going to have to get inside to get your steak knife, and then you're doing some Michael Myers shit now.
Love Mike.
The fucking sister's weird.
To me, the brother makes the most sense.
You're going with the brother. Going with the brother. Crystal's right there with you, I think.
I'm going to say I can't be 50-50.
It seemed like you were pretty hardcore on the brother too. So it's like, I'm outgunned because there's way too much estrogen in this fucking episode.
I see all the points that she's saying.
It's nice for a change.
Fuck you, Lindy.
And I think we just found the ending.
Yes.
There we go. We solved the case.
I know it was a dude. He probably had a small penis and he was angry about it. And that's why he kills people.
Yeah, it just, yeah.
That's
his name, Ross Moore.
Yeah,
that makes the most sense to me. That Ross? Because he has the most motive. He has the most everything. There's the most reasoning,
and then
behind it,
nonstop trampling on evidence to prove anything of any kind ever. So,
well, and besides the fact that even if there wasn't all of that happened, there's an explainable reason for why his DNA would be in that home.
Right?
Yeah, because he fucked bacon.
Oh, my Lord.
No, because he was the brother and he would be in their home.
I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing now.
One track mind. Bacon.
I thought you was going somewhere else with that, Lindy. Sorry. Yeah,
nope.
Yeah. The only guy on this podcast right now, I've got no backup.
Yep.
I'll back you.
Zach and Todd left you to fend for yourself.
They did. I even told Todd exactly what time we were doing this. I told him I'd send him the link. He said, no, I'm going home for a little while.
Motherfucker left me out for the wolves.
He did.
It's fine.
He did.
It's fine. I've enjoyed every bit of this. This has been great. We'll have to have Crystal come back for another episode sometime.
Absolutely.
The Haunting in Connecticut, maybe, where you read that book about the morgue, the dude that did diddled things in the morgue.
Did the diddled things?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Oh, he was raping dead bodies. If I didn't come across clear enough with that, I think I did, didn't I? Yeah,
I got what you were saying.
I did not have to do that. Okay.
I got what you were saying.
I'm just driving it. I'm just really driving it home like he did.
Is that everything that we have on?
I think we should just end this right now.
Okay. In case anybody is interested, you actually can still go to the murder house.
I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. But it is they have turned it into a type of museum, so you can take a tour through there.
Stay the night.
And can you spend the night?
Yes.
I think it was $425 a night.
Is that how much it was?
Oh,
I think so.
Interesting. We might have to do that.
And people bring toys like all the time. Like they bring balls and stuff and see if they'll roll them down the hallways and shit like that. Yeah, they do that.
See if the kids will play with them.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I'm going to do Zach's part here, and I'm going to tell everybody thank you for continuing to listen and like, rate, and review the podcast. And make sure that you check out the website at hmfppod.com.
Fucking nailed it.
You can listen to episodes and do all of that fun stuff. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
I was with you.
They're coming to get you. God of Christ.
Hello, Mr. Fancy